Welcome to the Juice Radio Talk Show. 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 Reality TV, church reviews. Let's talk happy love and marriage lifestyle. Come and talk with us. Come and share with us. Come and laugh with us. Come on and pray with us.
Regina Nicole is a special guest. You should be following your lead. Bless. Subscribe on YouTube. Listen on podcasts. We live on IG and Facebook. This episode is sponsored by Truth and Triumph Ministries.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are. I see here I still have my old background on, so excuse me for that as we maneuver today to get ready for today's broadcast. So I am just so excited about the opportunity to share with you again. This is Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. We are celebrating a new day that the Lord has allowed us to see. And so we just want to share with you today. We're continuing in our visionary leader in our series, talking about you as the leader, you as the visionary, you as the innovator. How do we level set in our own character, in our own way of posturing before people, so that we operate in a way that our brand influences our money, so that we are able to influence others to move forward positively in our network, with our network. All right. I'm so excited today. We're going to be talking about leading with integrity. How many know that that is so important? It is so important that we lead as a leader of integrity, that we lead with good ethics, that we make sure that whatever we do is pleasing before the Lord, especially those of us who are operating in ministry. It is so important and imperative. I'm just pulling up my notes here because we want to make sure that however we lead before the people, as in our organization, in our teams, whether we lead in other clubs. Some of you may be like me. I'm in a book club, investment club, and two book clubs. And so I lead in a lot of variety of spaces. I'm in a business leaders group. And so we have opportunity to share. So iron sharpening iron. And so even as you lead in all the various spaces that you have been called to, that you are anointed to do, you want to make sure that you're doing it so in a way that you always remember your why. I think that is so important. When you understand your why am I doing this? What is my purpose? What is my calling? What is the design that I was created to do in this particular moment, in this particular business, in this particular vocation? What is it that I'm called to do? And then when I stand in my why, I'm able to operate with integrity wherever I go. And so that, I think that's so important because when we watch the news today, right, when we look at and we look at what we see on the news, what we see on the TV, we see people who have been given to places and given opportunities in spaces, and they don't carry it very well. So there's an opportunity for all of us to fall short. And so what we want to do is enable ourselves that we're thinking from maximizing our influence. How do I posture myself in such a way that it matters? How I lead, how I operate, how I communicate. We've talked about communicating, even your communication. It also matters. And so we want to talk about real quickly some of the things that you want to ensure that you define in your own walk, in your own leading space. And one thing I always say, you always, as a leader, want to make sure that you have an accountability person. Who do you sit under? Who do you go to for information? Who do you go to for guidance? Who do you go to for understanding? Sometimes who do you go to for comfort, so that you have a person that you can confide in, that you know that there is an opportunity for you to be transparent. I think sometimes the reason why people fall into areas where they're not operating ethically or with integrity is because they don't have someone to dialogue against when they may want to make a decision that could be crucial, that oftentimes may ride the line, right? So you want to make sure that you have that person in your life that you can communicate with. So one of the things that operating ethically, right, as a leader involves you having your principles, your values, and your morals as part of all your decision making. So we oftentimes talk about it, all money is not good money. And so when you operate ethically, you know how to operate from a posture of, I want to do what is aligned to my principles, what is aligned to my values, and what is aligned to my moral decision making. What is aligned to that? And those are the ways that I want to operate every day because it matters. What does this do? This fosters trust. Trust from the people that you operate with. This fosters loyalty. This fosters long-term success. We're not talking about just starting your business today and then looking at just today. We're talking about how do you be built to last? How do you operate in such a capacity so that this is a business, an organization, a gifting that you have that will last into the next phase or the next release or the next version of where you're going. So you don't want to start, the Bible talks about that no man goes into war without weighing up the cost. Whatever is going to cost you. Sometimes I've had opportunities and I've had to say no because it did not align to my purpose. It did not align to my principles. It did not align to my values. And while it might have been a good thing, it wasn't a good thing for me. And so when you are a business owner and you're sitting at the table or opportunities come to you, you have a point of reference, which is your values, which are your principles, and which are your moral decisioning making factors, things that give good character. These are the things that will set you apart. When people know and they recognize who you are and you're consistent on all those spaces of your life, they can trust you with more. They depend on what you say as a sounding board of wisdom. And so even as you lead your team, your brand gets a strong reputation. Your brand, who you are, how you show up. Who you are when you think people are not watching. Because I tell leaders in all my spaces, somebody's always watching. Somebody's always looking. And somebody will notice a person who operates differently from the norm. When you're a person who sits outside the box, who have determined that I'm going to operate from Christianly biblical practices, from understanding and clarity of the word, understanding clarity of who I am, how I was created, and the way that I have to disciple myself. When you operate that way, you're always going to be set aside differently. Thank you for all of those who've joined today's conversation. We appreciate having you. And so when you operate from that capacity, you also will create your own reputation. People will start to see you as somebody different, and they'll start to see you as somebody to watch. You start to get on some radars because you're operating with being an ethical leader, and you're operating with integrity, and you're operating with good character. You will stand out apart from the rest. And so that's one of the reasons why it matters to operate from that perspective. Not only that is pleasing in the sight of the Lord, but also you create a good brand. Sometimes you wonder why some businesses, they have a brand. When you just mention the name, you already know it's quality. We want to operate from such a capacity that when they mention your name, when they mention your business, when they mention your product, when they mention your service, they already know, Lord have mercy, that it is good product, it is good service, and that you're operating in excellence. So one of the things you want to do as an imperative for a leader who wants to operate in integrity is to make sure that integrity is your foundation, that you operate from an honest, transparent, and consistent actions and decisions. Consistency leads to progress. And so when people operate from a consistent perspective, even sometimes you might make a mistake. We've talked about that before. How do I fail forward? How do I keep moving forward? How do I keep learning from the last decision so that when I make the next group, they're even better? So even when you fail forward, people understand where you're coming from, and your intent does matter. What does intent do? I want to talk about that. So integrity is your foundation, but your intent builds trust. So those are the things that build trust in the people that you're working with, and the people who are on your team, the people who operate with you in ministry, the people who operate with you as partners, who invest in you, who give financially, who give of their time, who give of their wisdom, give of their strength, give even of their prayers for you to be successful. The return on that is trust. And so when you build that from a perspective of consistency and integrity, you build their trust that is lasting. I've seen this operate in many capacities, especially when you're having a rough run of it, or you're working on maybe on a new product and you're doing your proof of concept and it's not going well, or you're working on a project and it's not going well, and you're hitting those road bumps where you have to iteratively improve, where you might have wanted to get there much faster. Sometimes the fastest way to get somewhere is slow. And so sometimes we've had to slow down in order to make sure that we're doing it in quality. But because of your reputation, because you've been transparent, because they know that you operate in integrity, they can respect what you are saying. They can respect that what you are delivering is of good intent. And so that builds trust. Again, it builds trust because you're consistent in your ethical behavior. Your behavior does matter as a leader. This influences money. We've talked about this several times. How important it is that how you show up at the table, how you show up when you're delivering service to your clients, how you show up when you're giving a demeanor to the people that you're in fellowship with. All of those things matter because in that you build trust. And when you're making your consistent decisioning power, people have a trust in the decisions you're making. Why? Because your decisions are based on principles, even when they are difficult. Sometimes I've had to make difficult decisions. Sometimes I've had to pivot in ways that perhaps everyone did not agree in different spaces of my vocations. But I still had to be led of the way that I know was right. I'm taking in that collaborative feedback, but saying, here's why I'm going to do this. Because sometimes we're privy to information or insight or foresight. Sometimes as a leader, you have to recognize that you have a perspective that others can't see. And because you have a foresight, not just insight, not just knowing information that you have, but also the foresight, you have discernment. You're able to see ahead. You're able to, through the Holy Spirit, be aware of some things that maybe others are not perceiving. And so then what you do is that you talk about it through the groups so that we can come to an understanding. I always say everybody may not agree, but there's a point in the area that we can come to a mutual understanding that is beneficial to move forward in progress. So again, when you're operating with ethics, when you're operating with integrity, these things show up. And then one of the things is reputation management. Oh, this is so key as a leader. This helps you not be so quick to do things. Don't be so quick to respond, quick to answer, quick to get upset, quick to be a knee-jerk reaction. You don't want to do that because your reputation is on the line. I was mentioning that yesterday. Some people will agitate you in a way because they don't have nothing to lose. Their posture and position where they are is where they've been a long time. And you're trying to go forward. And so sometimes when you're engaging with people like that, you have to remember your reputation is on the line. And so where you've gone and the great things you've done can be damaged by one bad interaction. You can definitely recover from that, but you'll lose ground. And so you have to think about it. How do I handle this situation so that it won't damage my reputation, that it won't hinder me from building a strong reputation that in addition to that, it attracts customers. This is what we're talking about in your business. It attracts a membership. It attracts people who want to be a part. People value strong reputation. People value people that come in their presence with a strong sense of wisdom, a strong sense of love, a strong sense of understanding. They value strong reputation. And so you have to manage that. You have to manage where you go and how you show up. We talked about that in earlier lessons, even what you wear, because people see you before they hear from you. People see you. People hear, they see what you're wearing. And sometimes they can be a bias. They can be a perception. But you have to know as a leader to operate in the new lanes and the spaces that you're going in. There are some new spaces that you will be going into that reputation, look, conversation, communication, they do matter. And so as you operate with ethics, you have to understand that you are your walking brand. You are your walking brand. You are the image that you want to represent for your business, the image that you want to represent. And it matters to your money. We're talking about Money Mondays. It matters to your money. How you operate with ethics and you retain and maintain, sustain, and preserve your reputation. Because sometimes while we may be emotional at times, right? We're passionate about things. We have to even learn how to self-control ourselves so that we can be passionate without demeaning, passionate without sowing discord. How can we be passionate about it in such a way that our reputation remains strong? So that is a key point in operating with ethics and operating with integrity. You want your brand to remain strong, solid in the fact of your belief and your principles and your morals and your good character. Some of the things that you also want to talk about really when you're doing ethical leadership is balancing your core values, right? Core values to your organizations. How do you align them to your mission and your vision? Where are you going? What is the difference sometimes between organizational mission and purpose and your own individual mission and purpose? How do you bring them together so that you're successful? How do you align them so that you won't always, as a leader, impose your personal beliefs, but you want to always expose how beneficial they could be, right? As long as it is aligning to your organization's core mission and values, you want to push those things along, especially in your communication, in your transparency. When you foster open communication, it empowers employees and colleagues and others around you to feel safe in reporting when they see unethical behavior. The last thing we want to do is have people who understand and recognize that things are not right, but they're afraid to say something because we haven't been open to allow them to add feedback. Right? We talked about having that open door policy is also be willing to hear some things that you don't want to hear. Sometimes they can let you know about some people that you didn't expect that it would be that person. And so sometimes we got to make sure that we don't create biases within our teams so that they don't feel comfortable to let us know, even when your best person on the job is doing something that could hinder your brand or hinder your organization. You want to make sure that everybody knows that there's an opportunity to share because we're operating ethically across the entire organization. How many organizations have you seen where the second person or the person over finances was misappropriating and people knew, but they didn't say anything? How many even ministries that we heard of where others were in the ministry and they were doing things that were inappropriate and others were afraid to say something because that person maybe was family. That person maybe was a good friend. That person maybe had been a loyal employee. And so others felt like their voice would not be heard or that they would have retribution because they would voice what they're seeing and they would voice their opinion. When you're working ethically and with integrity, it falls on everybody in the organization. And so one thing you definitely want to do, we don't want to hire anybody we can't fire. And so if you have difficulty managing people in your family or managing people that you're friends with or managing people and being truthful about what you expect and ensuring that you receive what you respect, then that's not a person to have on your team because you never want to back yourself into a wall where you have no options. You want to never limit yourself as the leader to lead. It is our role. We cannot be absent in spaces of our due diligence where it is necessary for us to be present. And one of them is having an ethical and integrity across the organization. It is unfair. It is unfair to expect some to operate ethically and then allow others to be willful and misuse and to demean what your brand is. So we have to make sure that we're doing it in the core of our values, that we're communicating and having transparency across the entire organization. The same would be with ethical training. Sometimes you might have to bring in someone, maybe you don't want to do it as a leader, but you need to have that as a approach and understanding for your entire organization, especially if you're seeing behaviors that are not ethical and you may have difficulty correcting it yourself. You need to bring in someone else who can help you bring things into alignment so that as you operate in faith, as you operate together, you are honed. They always say you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so if your weak link is preventing you from getting forward, you need to be able to cut it off. If there's an opportunity to change behavior, is there an opportunity to give corrective instructions? You need to do that. And if you have difficulty as a leader, I know there's some of us out here who are afflicted with compassion. Believe me, I understand. We're afflicted with compassion. We love folks so much. Amen. But there are times when you as a leader, you have to think from the perspective that I am leading from the front, and therefore I have to hold everyone accountable. And so it's only fair. I recognize this. Things won't always be equitable, but it must be fair. Because people operate at different levels. People have different capacities and different understandings. And so it may not always be exactly equal because they have an unequal ability. People have different abilities and different understandings, but it always has to be fair when you're operating with ethics, when you're operating from integrity. And so we want to make sure that we are doing that because everybody needs to be accountable. I got that down. Everybody needs to be accountable. Just like you're accountable as the leader. We're accountable for our actions. We're accountable for our behavior. We're responsible for how we show up. And so is everybody else. And so especially when it comes from a business, you have to make sure that you're looking at it from that perspective as a visionary. How are we moving people forward? How are we helping grow people up to the next level? Maybe you came in and you didn't understand that this was how we operate. And so we're going to dialogue with you. We're going to give you training. We're going to give you clarity. We're going to give you constructive feedback if you're not still doing it. But then we're going to give you an opportunity to say whether this is going to work for you or not. And so we always have that opportunity to say, listen, this is not a good fit. And we want you to have the best fit because this is how we operate here. This is how we do things according to these standards and these precepts and these principles and these values. And if this is not something that you can acquiesce to and come along with us for the journey and benefit for it, amen, and not grow bitter, but grow better, then this may not be the best fit for you. That's what we do as a leader. Okay, the next thing is business cases for ethic leadership. As we look at closing out today, these are the things that you really, really want to look for. Because as you're an ethic leader, you look for long-term success. I want to build such a foundation that it lasts, so that it has strong legs, that it can carry a long way. And so when you build on an ethical business, these are the ones that are more likely to survive. These are the ones that can thrive over the long term because ethical leadership helps you to avoid scandals. It helps you to avoid regulatory and compliance issues. It helps you to avoid those roadblocks that would come up that could be detrimental to you moving forward. And so that's why it is a principle that we have to have as a leader so that we can know where we have our basis and our foundation. One of the things, too, about ethical leadership is that it attracts talent. People want to be in an organization where things are done correctly. Know this. Especially people who have knowledge, people who have choices. Yes, you don't want everybody on your team that you're picking the last of the bunch. When you want to excel, when you want the best of the best, when you want people with expertise and experience and know-how to get things done, they want to wear that kind of character, that kind of ability, have choices. And they want to work. You want to attract good talent. They want to work for organizations that have strong ethics. That leads to better recruitment for you and your organization. This leads to retention. People want to stay when they know that it is full of integrity, that people's intent are good, and that you mean well, and that you're trying to move not only your organization forward, but your people forward. They stay. That's called sticky business. Put that in your notes. Sticky business. We want sticky business. We want to operate in such a capacity of integrity that people want to stay. You don't have to ask them to stay. They desire to be aligned with you. They want to stay on the assignment with you. And so that's how we want to operate. And then what else it does, when you have that kind of integrity operating with your group, performance is high. Because you as the leader, you set the bar. You set the bar. And so when your others are not operating in that kind of capacity, you got to go back and look at your core values. You've got to go back and look at your foundations. What am I missing? What do I need to retrain? Where do I need to retool? What do I need to recommunicate? Because when you're having a group together, there's always opportunity to learn and unlearn. What talents do I need to refine? Learn, unlearn, refine. What do I need to learn? What do I need to learn, unlearn? What behaviors do I need to leave behind? What do I need to leave on the floor? What do I need to let go? And then what do I need to retool? Where do I take it to that next version? Where do I take it to the next release? Where do I take it to the next level of excellence? And so that's what we want to talk about. When you operate in integrity, you'll find that good people operate around good leaders. Good leaders attract good people. I'm a witness. Good leaders build good teams. And so it is a fruit of how you operate. If you look around and you don't like the results that you're giving or what you're getting, then you need to change what you're giving out. You need to refocus and refine some things that you were doing, because good people align themselves to good leaders. All right. All right. And so lastly, before we close out today, I just want to encourage you that you will have challenges as you lead with ethics. You will have challenges. You will have people in tough decisions that you have to make. As a business owner, you may face the pressure to compromise. We've said that you might be faced with an opportunity to compromise. And here's where you have to establish a decision factor so that you can maintain your integrity, even when you're under pressure, even when you have to go alone, even when others don't agree, even when you have people who are encouraging you to do something that you know is not going to be beneficial. You have to have those kind of metrics in place. You got to have that little alarm button. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Lord. You've got to have that Holy Ghost, or that trigger that comes out and say, no, that's not going to work. And so that's why it's so important that we take the moment to look and see if it aligns to our core values. Look to see if this aligns to your vision and purpose. Look to see if this aligns to your values. And if it doesn't, it's not for you. And so we're going to be led in places and in spaces. I'm believing that. I'm believing that this is our year of expansion, our year to do something new. And you might have to tell people no. You might have to tell people not now. Might have to tell people that I need to think about it. I need to pray about it. I need to consider it. But in all those things you need to acknowledge wisdom. You need to go for wisdom and do what is right. And so also you need to develop a code of ethics at your business involving key stakeholders. Let others help you. Let others invest in making the right decision. And like I said, help them along to the why. Here's why. I know you guys said we need to go this way, but I'm being led. I need to go this way. And here's why. I perceive, I discern this. And this is the thing that we need to follow. And then often, most of the time, when you give clarity to your decisions, you get to understanding. So again, I want to encourage you today to make sure that you are operating with ethics, that you're leading from a posture of integrity. Integrity always promotes. It always lifts up. It always advances. It always moves us forward. Listen, we are here today, Monday on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. We're still in our series on enabling you as a visionary leader, as an ethical leader on today, to move forward personally as you advance your business. I'm Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. Thank you for joining me on today. All of you who have joined us online, I appreciate you. Please remember to like and share the Juice Radio and Talk Show, and make sure that others are able to receive this information. I know it's going to bless them just like it blessed you. Peace and blessings to you today.